Okay, so we left off last time with our project setup, and we've added a couple of objects to our scene. And we're going to take this sphere and the plane that we created, and we're going to set up a real game board with the two. So we talked about moving the objects around with the arrows and squares last time, but we can also set the position of objects using the position property in the inspector. So any object you select, and you can see the name here, if I click on the plane, it'll say plane, and then if I click on the sphere here, it'll say sphere up here in the inspector. And then let's say I'm looking at the sphere, I can analyze the properties of that sphere, and then you can see the position property, and I can change that to all zeros. And I can also set everything to 0, like let's say my plane is over here and my sphere is up too far and over a little bit. I can actually reset these, and I can click this little gearbox here and I can say reset, and it resets my plane back to all zeros. And I can do the same with my sphere. I can just say reset. That sets it to all 0. And 0x, 0y, and 0z is what's called the origin point of the scene, and it's where all the positioning information of your scene is calculated from. So if something has a position of 10, 10, 10, it is up 10, or it's to the right 10, up 10, and forward 10 from the 0, 0, 0 origin point in the scene. So now we have a plane and a sphere here that are set at a perfect 0. So if I select the sphere, I want to hit F again to center my screen on the sphere. And then you can see that if I click over here, you can see that the sphere is stuck halfway through the plane, and we actually want it to sit right on top of the plane. So what I'm going to do is select the sphere, and we can see that it's 0, 0, 0. But we can also see that the scale of the sphere is 1, 1, 1. That means it's 1 wide, 1 unit tall, and 1 unit deep. And in order to lift this up just enough so that it's sitting right on top of the plane, since at 0 it's already halfway out, I only need to move half of it up in order to get it perfectly sitting on top of that plane. So I just move it up on the y-axis 0.5, and then it's sitting perfectly right on top of that plane. And while I'm here with the sphere selected, I'm going to go ahead and double click slowly on it. So don't double click on it, but single click it and then click it again slowly, and it'll allow you to change the name. And I'm going to change it to player. Let's capitalize that. So there's my player object, and I'm going to do the same with the plane. I'll select the plane, and I also want to scale it up by 2. So I'm going to add 2 to the x, and I'm going to set the z to 2 as well. And we're not going to add any scale to the depth because planes actually don't have depth. So we're not going to change the y value at all. The only way that it makes any difference to change the y on a plane is if we add a negative value, it would actually make the plane sort of disappear. Because a plane is a single-sided object, when you face it a different way, you can see right through it. So I could put -1 here, and I wouldn't be able to see the plane. But if I were to spin my view upside down, now I can see the plane. So the plane didn't actually disappear, it's still there. It's just the face that I can see switched sides. So I'm going to switch that back, and then it disappeared on that side, but now it's visible again from the top. And now we need to get rid of all this white. It's very boring, so we're going to add some color to our game objects. To add colors, we use what are called materials. So in the project window, what I do is say create, and I will create a material. Then I'm going to create a folder called materials. I'm going to drag that, my new material, into the materials folder. And I'm going to single click on this and then click it again slowly to reveal the name. And I'm going to call this one player skin. And this is going to be the coloring information for the player. And I'm going to make sure that player skin is selected. And I'm going into the inspector. And remember, inspector, if I click on an object, anything over here in either the hierarchy view or the project view, the inspector will reveal the properties of that item. So in this case, I'm working on the player skin, and albedo is the main color of the texture, basically. So I'm going to go into this albedo project or component, and I'm going to change the color to, let's give this a nice green color. So I'll make it a nice bright green here. And that'll be the color for our player skin. And then I'm going to select the sphere, and I'm going to hit F to zoom in on it. And to add the player skin, or to add this color to the sphere, I can just drag the color right onto the sphere, and it changes the color. So that's pretty easy. I'm going to do the same thing with the plane. I'm going to create a new material, and actually I'm going to have the materials folder selected. Then I'm going to create a new material, and it gets created right into the materials folder. And while the dialog box is still open, I'm going to change this to board skin. So that's going to be the skin for our board, and I'm going to change the albedo color here to a nice blue. That's probably good. And so like a nice bright royal blue sort of. And then I'm going to drag that right onto our game board. So now we're all set with our basic game board setup. And on the next video, I'm going to show you how we set up our player controls.